Hi everyone, I'm back, as in back to podcasting. Oh God, so much has happened. I am Lusungu, as many of you know, and you might know me from the Feministing While Malawian podcast. And I think I've always had this passion to want to document our stories, especially as African feminists, specifically Malawian feminists. So I'm back with podcast called And the Women Came. Peculiar name, isn't it? But trust me, there's a great story to it. So let's get into it. What is the And the Women Came podcast? This is a podcast about women showing up for women, one story at a time, and it will be hosted by me, and I'll also have guests many times to share their stories about how women have shown up for them. So it's about women for women. Yeah, so why the name And the Women Came podcast? All right, so I have been thinking of the idea of coming back to podcasting and sharing my story, but I had not yet figured out from what angle until shout out to one of my feminist elders and mentors, Jessica Horn. We've been waiting for this book for I think 2 years since she shared first that she was writing a book, and it's called African Feminist Praxis, and I'll just read what it's about. So it says at the back, so much of the story of African resistance has been told in the masculine, tracing the history of spectacle, great struggles, great speeches, the grand displays of nation building. This book adds to the literature that reverses this, exploring the fresh and breadth of contemporary African feminist politics as articulated across the African continent. That's just a bit about what the book is about. And I've been really enjoying this book. And as you can see, you see that as I'm looking at it, almost every page is marked by this pen tobacco of mine. But as I was reading the book and thinking of how I wanted to share my stories again, I came across a quote that is in the book when she was sharing. There's a topic called And the Women Came. And I was like, this is interesting. What is that about? And it's under the chapter called Courage. So she shares a quote from the Liberian peace activist and Nobel laureate Lema Gobe, a favorite of mine. I've got her biography or memoir behind me. It's called Mighty Be Our Powers, and it's amazing. So she was on this. She describes hearing the testimony of women survivors in Eastern DRC in 2014 with a global finding mission. And this is what she had to say about that. She said, the first woman talked, and she talked about her brutal rape. And then she talked about wanting to commit suicide. And midway through her story, she said, and the women came. They brought me food, they brought me money, they talked to me, they prayed with me, and I talked differently. I didn't catch it. The second person talked midway in their story, and the women came. By the time we got to the 20th person, I realized there's something going on in all these narratives. And the women came. They did not just come, they came as sisters, as feminists, and as philanthropists. The little that they had, they brought and gave. The little that they had and gave turned a situation of hopelessness into a situation of hopefulness. After the 30th person, a reporter raised her hand and said, all of you talked about rape. So, how many times were you raped? So I said to her, did you hear anything that these women said? Then I realized, when we came to this country, the narrative that everyone came with was that this is the rape capital of the world. The narrative that I had formed is that this is the capital of sisterhood. Listen, after I read that quote, a light bulb just came. That is it. That is the angle that I want to document the different stories of women showing up for other women. And shout out to my favorite person to read to, who is also my producer and everything, and stage setter or whatever that is called. I know it's a job. Dee, she's behind the camera. Hi, Dee. And yeah, so I was reading this to her, and then I was like, Dee, we have it. This is the name. And so this podcast will be focusing on that, sharing how women show up for other women. I look forward to going on this journey with you, and I'll see you soon. Enjoy listening.